it's my pleasure to bring on an expert when it comes to NBA Top Shot. He's also a fan of the NBA as well, Jack Standen. And Jack, as I welcome you onto the show, first of all, good morning, and I appreciate you hopping on the show. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So this is really interesting, Jack, because Top Shot is kind of a newer phenomenon, and I know it's something that you've kind of started to dive into and delve into. Why don't you tell our viewers kind of what Top Shot is, how it operates, and perhaps a little background on how you first got involved with it?
Yeah, so I'll start with the background. I saw it maybe around 2.5 months ago, and it was actually on Twitter. So a couple NBA players, namely JJ Redick and Josh Hart, were tweeting about it because right after their games, they saw that some of the highlights that they had created themselves had been registered as Top Shots. So I thought it was a cool idea, and going from there, I looked at the links and just kind of started to want to get an idea of what this was all about. And so basically, how I would describe Top Shot, it is similar to how you were describing it. It is kind of a new era trading card, but within an NFT. So all of these moments, instead of having one card with one picture, it'll be a highlight. So you'll have X number of highlights that are verifiably authentic, produced by the NBA of this one specific player for a given moment. And then you can create a market based off of that, based on what you think the players are going to do in the future, what they've done in the past, whether they're changing teams, how relevant is the highlight given a certain situation. So I think it depends. And since I've started getting into it, it has evolved a couple different times. I know that some of the release patterns they have been coming out with, they're staggered now. They're starting to do lottery systems. So I think it's a really exciting time to get into it, and it's only going to keep growing from here, honestly.
And can you share what kinds of highlights you currently own? What type of
Of course.
shop top cards can you share with us?
So my favorite one is actually a Taylor Horton Tucker highlight. It was from the bubble, and it was against the Houston Rockets when he picked James Harden, got it to Alex Caruso, dished it back to him, and he kind of threw down the transition dunk. So that's my favorite one. I've currently owned two packs, so I've been able to open those and kind of explore. The one that I got most recently was an All-Star pack. So within that, I got a Kawhi Leonard three-point shot, and that one was a little bit more on the limited edition side. So I think that has kind of the flagship, like if there's only X amount in existence, and if you have one of the higher coveted ones, that's where kind of these insane valuations that you're seeing, like well, LeBron James highlights over 260K or something just ridiculous like that. So that's kind of how the demand is derived. So from there, I don't know. Yeah, I have a couple packs that I have pre-ordered, so we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed.
And do you see this type of not only technology but the concept of NBA Top Shots? Do you see this funneling into other sports as well, like the NFL and the MLB at some point?
I think it would. I think the NFL is an interesting one just because of their licensing agreements. I know that the NBA kind of took the opposite side of the road when they were trying to build up the brand, just by letting all of their content be kind of like repostable, able to see it on Twitter, on Instagram. So the NFL, I'm not too sure about. MLB, soccer, other sports, I think it's a great way to raise awareness. It's a great way to raise popularity for kids. Yeah, I definitely can see there being a future for it.
Now, transitioning to basketball, because I know you're a big basketball fan and I know that you're a Lakers fan. So I think the obvious question is Andre Drummond signs with the Lakers
We
after
got
being
him.
bought out by the
Well,
Cleveland Cavaliers. What are your thoughts on that move? Do you like this move? Do you think it's enough to put the Lakers over the top?
I love this move. I think that one of the biggest things that I've realized and the team realized in the offseason is we kind of took JaVale and Dwight for granted. And we didn't have somebody that was able to be that physical presence down low and be able to establish the post and the rebounding defensively. So with Drummond, we get all of those kind of needs met, and we still have the finesse of a Marcus Gasol, the bench punch of a Montrez. But I really do think this makes our team whole.
And when you look at the Western Conference and the entire landscape of the Western Conference specifically, obviously the Lakers are still favored, assuming that LeBron and AD are healthy. But which team, if there was a team that was going to knock off the Lakers, which team do you think poses the greatest threat to knocking off the Lakers this postseason?
That's a good question. Um, Obviously, the Clippers are going to be in the mix. I do like the addition of Rondo. I think he's going to be a great presence on the court, especially as you get further into the postseason. One team that we faced last year that I'm specifically worried about this year is the Denver Nuggets. I think they're only getting better. They have Jokic, who's arguably the MVP this year, Jamal Murray, a proven postseason player, adding guys like Aaron Gordon, who can provide athletic versatility and another kind of big body to throw at, and Anthony Davis at, and Andre Drummond. I definitely think they match up well against us. So yeah, those two teams. I also think the Mavs, depending on if they can get hot, just because it is a one-off year and they do have those firepower assets. With Portland, so it'll be a very exciting playoff and very much so looking forward to it.
It'll be interesting to see how far they fall with LeBron out, whether they even get to the point of having to just make the play-in tournament. Now, I'm not that pessimistic. I think that they'll be able to still remain in the field of the top 6 at least, but because if they're in the set, if they're 7 through 10, they'll have to participate in some way in a play-in tournament. That'll be interesting. Let's transition to the Eastern Conference, and obviously all the talk's been around the Brooklyn Nets and how literally every single player has been intrigued and wanting to sign with them. Now personally, for me, I've kind of wanted to send out an APB to look for Adam Silver to restore some type of reverence and competition in the NBA. I've kind of been disappointed that he hasn't vetoed any of these moves. LaMarcus Aldridge just signs with the Brooklyn Nets. What are your thoughts on that move for Brooklyn?
I mean, for Brooklyn, I love it. For the Lakers, I'm not too thrilled about it. For the NBA at large, I'm not too thrilled about it. I do think that this is an outlier of a year, and especially for teams and players rather that have the opportunity to get bought out, it's a really good opportunity to go and win a championship if that's something you want to go do. I do think that specifically Aldridge, just because he's a little older, I think that this is more of a calculated move because he just wants to win a ring before he retires. But if I look at Blake and even if I look at Drummond, to be honest, they are sacrificing potentially long-term money to go do this. So I think that number one, it does show their commitment to wanting to win, which I do respect, but it also is kind of yet to be seen what the ultimate result is going to be at this.
And final question before I let you go. Who do you got reaching the finals? What's your NBA finals prediction, and who do you have winning the NBA title this year?
I don't want to be like everybody and choose Lakers Nets, but I really do see it shaping out that way. If I had to give you a dark horse contender that I could see coming out the East, it would probably be Philly. I think that they're a very well-rounded team. They got some strong leaders in there with Doc Rivers, Daryl Morey. So yeah, those two teams I could see making some noise come June.
Well, Jack, thank you so much for joining me. To anyone who's interested in learning a little bit more about NBA Top Shot, I would encourage you strongly to reach out to Jack Standen. He's not hard to find, and if you have NBA opinions too, he can certainly hold his own and talk about it as well. Jack, thank you so much for joining me, and have a great rest of your day. All right.
Thank you, Jonah. This was great. Have a good one.